Welcome to the Education Corner, a podcast by Education Choices magazine.
Education Corner podcast would like to welcome Mrs. Alex Hutchinson, head at James Alleyne's Girls' School and president of the Girls' School Association. James Alleyne's Girls' School is an independent day school for girls aged 4 to 18. The school describes their aims as to celebrate our diverse and inclusive community, to champion social awareness and sustainability, to empower courage, creativity and compassion in each student, to inspire aspirational and authentic lifelong learners and leaders, to nurture respectful, resilient and kind individuals, both in and out of the classroom. Established in 1741, JAGS is the oldest independent girls' school in London. Today, they embrace their rich history of an all-girls education and conscientiously prepare and adapt for a changeable future. Alex Hutchinson joined JAGS as head in 2020 and has previously worked at schools including St Mary's Ascot, Wimbledon High School and head at Waldingham School. Alex is also president of the GSA for 2024 to 2025. It's such a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you, Chloe. It's a real delight to be here.
Firstly, can you tell us about your background and how you came to your role at JAGS?
Absolutely. And as I say, thank you so much for inviting me today to speak. So I did a degree in chemistry at Oxford, absolutely loved it, played a huge amount of sport in my time there as well, but genuinely had no idea what I wanted to do as a career. So absolutely on a whim, I decided to do a teacher training course. I moved to Bristol. I set foot in a classroom and absolutely loved it. And that was the start of my teaching career. And since then, I've been a chemistry teacher. I've been a head of science. I've been a head of sixth form twice in two different schools. I've been a deputy head and I've been a head and I'm now a head for the second time. So I've done lots and lots of different things. I started off teaching in co-education and I sort of fell into girls' schools a little bit by accident. We relocated with my husband's job and I got a job in a girls' school, and that was over 20 years ago and 5 girls' schools ago. So that's been an incredible part of my career, the privilege of working in girls' schools. My husband Chris is also a head. So between us, we look after approximately 2,500 young people in South London. And actually, in terms of coming to JAGS, I worked here for a year when we relocated from Newcastle. I had a job here as a chemistry teacher for a year and left to go and do other things. And then always wondered whether I might come back. And lo and behold, in 2020, I came back as the head. So it really has been an absolute dream come true coming back to JAGS.
How wonderful. Could you tell us a bit about the ethos and values at JAGS?
Absolutely. So you very kindly read through our school aims at the top of the programme, and it's always so incredible to hear those and to see us putting those into action. But what I would say is that JAGS is a really amazing, dynamic community. There are 1,200 girls from age 4 to 18, and here we are in Dulwich in South London. We are academically selective as a school. We make no bones about that, and the girls are brilliant. They are bright and talented and funny and kind. They're authentic. They're big thinkers. We're very diverse as a community. We really value the individuality of our students. And I like to think that we're a nicely self-assured community. We're never arrogant in what we do, but we like to own that sort of self-assuredness that comes with their educational journeys through JAGS. And yes, we're really proud of the exam results that they achieve, but we're absolutely not defined by them. We really like to focus on every individual's definition of success. And that can be different for each young person. And that lack of stereotyping, fostering that lack of stereotyping and that genuine sense of individuality, we think for a girls' school is really important. The girls are just as comfortable, putting their hand up in a chemistry lesson as they are racing off at lunchtime to go and play hockey or curling up with a book in the library or going to debating club. It really is about what they choose to do and all of the bits of the jigsaw that add up to what we call a complete education. And we absolutely believe that being busy is a good thing. We're busy in the classroom, we're busy outside the classroom. And we like to sum it up to say what we have here at JAGS is a real passion for life and learning.
Very much so. And you also recently became head of the Girls' School Association, well, it was a year ago. Could you tell us more about how you came to this role and what you hope to achieve in your time as president?
Absolutely. And so it's an extraordinary privilege to be the president of the Girls' School Association, the GSA, in what is our 150th year. We were founded by the formidable Miss Buss and Miss Beale 150 years ago, and their mission was to promote parity for the education of girls. And since I started in girls' schools, as I was saying earlier, I've always been a great supporter and advocate of the GSA. I'm going to give a big shout out to the class of 2016, who are the group of heads where we started our headship journey together. And they are a brilliant group. They are some of my closest friends. They're great allies. They're extraordinary leaders, and we're really proud to be part of that group. And in terms of my journey through it, I initially joined the GSA's Education Committee because that was the area that I was particularly interested in. The GSA runs committees across the whole breadth of education. And then I chaired the Education Committee. I took on doing that just as we went into COVID. And we were faced with the process of exams nationally, GCSEs and A levels being cancelled, and we had to work our way through the process of CAGs and tags across those 2 years. But that was a fascinating time of being in very close dialogue with other associations, with the DFE, with Ofqual, to make sure that we could put something in place. And once I'd done that, it felt like the right time to step into the president's shoes. And that's sort of my journey through how I became to be president for 2024-25.
Could you tell us more about how you feel schools and their pupils benefit from being part of the Girls' School Association? We've obviously spoken to Donna Stevens, but it would be good to hear also from yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me tell you a little bit about what I might hope to achieve this year, and then we could, and broaden that more generally into what the GSA offers. So, as I said, it's such a privilege for me to be in this role. As heads of GSA schools, we have the privilege to set a vision for the education of the girls in our schools, to be role models for that vision. And I think there's such a powerful piece about female role modeling and the chance to inspire and shape the future for our young people. And I love the opportunity to promote the benefits of choice for parents, that choice of educating your daughter in a girls' school. Because what we really value in the GSA is these environments that champion, that empower, that encourage girls, and that they celebrate the power and potential of our girls. We've actually had an open morning in school this morning for our 11 plus entry, and it's a phrase I use all the time. This is a school where we can really focus on the power and potential of your daughters. Help them celebrate that really precious individuality, help them to celebrate their excellence, but absolutely help them to avoid that exhausting treadmill of perfectionism and really sort of to focus on that authenticity. We want them to be real people living real lives here, not only at JAGS, but in the schools within the GSA. So I think sort of largely the role of the president has two facets, one of which is to really be the cheerleader, to sort of shout from the rooftops about the joy and the vitality of what is happening in our GSA schools. And I think the other side of it is, it's not an easy time for the independent sector, and we may well talk about that a little bit later on, but it is to be that sort of calm voice in turbulent times, to highlight the benefits of our girls' school, and to, as I said, to highlight that vital importance of choice for parents in the choices they're making for their daughters' education. And there are so many benefits to being a member of the GSA, because we have a common mission. That is to focus on the education of girls, and what the GSA does, certainly for the heads within the association, it's an immediate network of support, of encouragement, inspiration from like-minded individuals, whether it's sharing good practice, whether it's debating educational policy at the highest level, whether it's pastoral support, or that network of committees and regional meetings that just is saying this is the common vision that we have. But there's also huge benefits for the girls in school, really importantly. There's a fantastic setup called Go Bold within the GSA that is really there to celebrate the talents and the potential of the young women in our schools, whether it's encouraging them to be courageous in their choices, to be curious, to show that self-belief through creative writing, through photography competitions, through sports festivals. There's an esports competition for those schools who have teams of girls who enjoy gaming and esports. There's a choir of the year. Shout out to Jags, we're in the final this weekend on Sunday, fingers crossed for that. There's all sorts of things about empowering futures and careers. And so I just think there's so much benefit for the girls as well. And we also benefit from the very sort of researched based approach that the GSA takes. You'll know the headlines, Chloe, that girls in girls' schools are significantly more likely to study STEM subjects. That comes from GSA research. Girls in girls' schools play the most sport. Girls in girls' schools consistently outperform their peers in other schools academically. So that research is really valuable for us to really espouse the benefits of being in a girls' school.
Very much so. And leading on to my next question, in the GSA's Powering Up Girls Guide, you're quoted as saying there are no glass ceilings in the girls' schools. I actually took great pleasure reading the guide. With the GSA reporting that girls in girls' schools are more than twice as likely to take part in science, maths, and sports. Do you want to just tell us a little bit more about the impact and importance of this in relation to an all-girls education?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of my favorite topics, as you can imagine. And so what I thought I might do is just to talk a little bit about what's happening in our schools in terms of curriculum, in terms of that sort of complete education and pastoral care that's very sort of precious in girls' school, and then talk a little bit about why girls' schools are still currently relevant. As well. So Jags was founded in 1741. As you said, we were founded to teach girls to read and sew. Now, fortunately, the curriculum has moved on a little bit since 1741. And if you think about that journey in girls' schools from compulsory needlework, but girls' schools being founded, to push forward that equality of education for girls. And where we are now is these really empowered communities who are making all sorts of extraordinary choices about their futures, about higher education. And I love just looking at this list of subjects that our girls go on to study. So I'm just going to pick a couple for you of what our current year 13s are thinking of going on to study. They're going off to study environmental geoscience. They're going off to study engineering and engineering mathematics, human, social and political sciences, linguistics with modern languages. And I love that sense that these are within a girls' school, these are passions that they have developed, those little sparks that get lit on their educational journeys that lead them then to this point of making these choices about their future higher education. And it's leading them, of course, we will have girls who go on to conventional careers, and that's great. That's what they've loved and that's what they cherish in terms of their next steps. But we've also got girls going off into a really dizzying array of probably careers that weren't invented when we were making similar choices, the sustainable architects, the wind farm engineers, or, whether they want to go and be professional athletes. We have alumna here at Jags who have been very successful Olympians. But it is about having that culture within school about their individual journeys and finding their strengths and developing those strengths. I think there's a really fascinating piece of research that Deloitte did, where they are saying that when they project forwards into the future of work, that they're seeing this as a call for a return to the Renaissance figure, this person who has got many talents and many interests. And I think girls' schools are real beacons of allowing girls this breadth of a very complete education. Deloitte is saying that the young people need to have digital mastery, they need to be comfortable with data, they need to be skilled in terms of business and management, and they need to be creative. When you look at that platform that girls' schools are providing, I think there's such an innate fit for the education that we are offering to allow these sort of Renaissance figures to come out. Yes, they've got their areas of interest, but they've had a very broad remit and very broad experience that's allowed them to get there. And the other piece that I really focus in on for girls' schools is, you come to a girls' school, you think about the pastoral care. It's an essential part of everything that we do. It's really, really the sort of the core part of our day-to-day being is around supporting our girls pastorally, knowing they've got this very extensive support network around them. And that is designed to support girls, to support for us in the senior school, to support the teenage girls of today, what's relevant and what is contemporary for them. So they feel safe in these surroundings. They feel safe to take risks. They know that learning to manage pressure is a skill in life. But in a girls' school, they're doing it in an environment where, do you know what? It's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to trip up. It's okay to find things tough. We'll pick you up, we'll dust you down, and we'll say, okay, what did you learn from that? What can we do next time? And that sense for us that this is in an environment that has been created around what's right for young women is really, really special for us. And so our girls' schools still relevant today. They were relevant back in 1741 when we were founded. They were relevant 150 years ago when Miss Buss and Miss Beale founded the GSA. I have a great stat that I found. So in 2023, women CEOs finally outnumbered CEOs who were called John. And I just think, okay, so girls' schools are not, they are not a relic of the past. And these are schools that are designed for girls, that are full of girls. But what we're providing here, we still have so far to go in this. And what we love is that in a girls' school, every leadership role is taken by a girl. Every superstar on the stage, on the sports pitch, in the orchestra, they're all taken by girls. And that expectation that this is how life can be, and this perhaps is how life should be, that this is the experience you had at school. So when you leave school, you go into it expecting that there is no choice and no option that is not open to you because you are a girl. And nobody can argue with that empowerment of girls and women. So there's still a long way to go. And are we still relevant? Absolutely.
Very much so. In your Head's Welcome on the school's website, you say, "It is absolutely my belief that all girls should be given the opportunity to grow and flourish in an environment where there is no limit to their ambitions." JAGS offers several bursaries and scholarships to support girls who will thrive in this environment regardless of their background. Could you tell us more about these and the work you do to widen access to the excellent education provided at schools like JAGS?
Yeah, thank you, Chloe. It's such a good question, such an important question. So, as I said, we were founded in 1741 by James Allen. His mission was to teach poor girls to read and sew. And so we were founded with a very philanthropic basis there. And that social conscience has really stayed with us throughout that time from our foundation through to now. Championing social awareness is absolutely one of our key school aims, and we were really proud recently to be awarded the Schoolhouse Award for Social Mobility. We are very clear that this school is not a bubble of privilege, and that piece around being about representing real life and real people is very important for us. So the independent sector tends to benchmark at around about 7% of students on bursary provision. And we're very proud that we are around about 17% of our senior school students who are on very significant bursary support. So we have over 140 students in school who are supported to a great and very significant extent with fee assistance through the James Allen's bursary scheme. It's, as I say, it's very deeply embedded as an ethos. And it's life-changing. It's life-changing for members of our community. We're really proud that that is accessible to so many. But one of the key things is that everybody in our community is enriched by this philosophy that we have. The fact that our school, the girls in our school come from a broad socioeconomic background. We all learn from that, and we are all enriched by that philosophy. And one of the things for me as head that's very important is this isn't a token gesture. What we want to embed here, and what we're very successful in embedding, is we want all of our students to have the same experience. And if you are here on a bursary, you are absolutely a full and very much loved member of our community. We want you to have the same experience as every other student. So our bursary provision covers not only the fees, but it covers transport, it covers uniform, it covers lunch, it covers co-curricular activities, it covers your accessibility to go on trips as well, so that you can genuinely have the experience that every student has. And as I say, we believe that our community is enriched by this. And one of the really interesting things, Chloe, I believe, is that the families who come and join us as fee payers do so knowing that this is the ethos that we have. They join our school because this is the ethos that they want in a school. We don't pretend it's expensive. It costs us in the region of £3 million a year to fund the bursary provision. And that's a very significant contribution, a commitment from the governors. And we are in I don't know whether it's a fortunate position, but in the position where we are oversubscribed with bursary applications at 11 plus and 16 plus. So we're having to make very difficult choices about where we offer that support. But I suppose when I come back to the fact that the community is enriched by this, I think you come back to the previous bit about expectations for girls who've been educated in girls' schools. But if we look at many different ways that we can measure the impact of this bursary provision. But I think one of the most important things is that collective expectation and understanding of the girls who come through our schools, that this is how life should be, not only in the experience that they have here, but also in the fact that we value this experience for everyone. The school should be accessible to bright and talented girls, regardless of their financial background. And that sense of philanthropy that pervades the school is then paid forward by those girls who've come through. They become alumna, they go into their professional careers with an understanding that that is the environment in which they've been educated. So I think there's a really important sense of sort of continuity, and then the prospect to be able to give back later on. And as you can tell from my answer, we feel very passionately about what we're doing here in that respect.
And obviously, it's so important that in every way schools like JAGS are so inclusive. You described the community at JAGS as a happy, diverse and dynamic community that values individuality and inclusivity. We've obviously talked about that in the previous question to some extent. But also, further to that, as a London school, your community must be very diverse and global, and increasingly, certainly, international and UK-based parents are looking for schools that offer that diverse global think tank. Could you tell us more about how you embrace this individuality at JAGS?
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, one of the great joys of being here in South London is, that diversity, and we think that's a real strength of our school and of our school community. And so I think, your question here was about individuality, and as I said, we had an open morning this morning. And one of the things we talk about there is that precious individuality that the girls who join the school have. And I genuinely think of all the schools that I've worked in, it is at JAGS where that sense of individuality is most nurtured and most championed. We are diverse, we are inclusive as a school, and that diversity is in the broadest sense of the word. Diversity is a huge umbrella term, and when you think about it, we will have we come from different backgrounds, different cultures, different faiths. We have different neurodiversities. We can fit in equally easily into this community, whether we're introverts or extroverts. We have different interests and different strengths and weaknesses, and we acknowledge that as members of the community. And I feel very passionately about it. as a school and as a leader, in terms of the vision and the ethos that we're setting, I don't want the girls in this community to be aspiring to some form of airbrushed perfection. It's certainly not something I aspire to. And for them to be able to call that out and see through it, I think it is really important, and to say, this is me. And we think that we have a really powerful response to, when parents ask us, what's a typical Jags girl? And I'm just super proud always to say, typical Jags girl, it's her being herself. A typical Jags girl is herself. And that message, that we don't conform to a particular stereotype here, is really important. And, if you look at some of the examples we've got in school, our prefect team includes neurodiversity prefects. It's really important. Lots of our inclusivity and diversity activities are student-led. Just before half term, we had our very much loved multicultural day and evening. It's led by the head girl team. It's completely student-led initiative. It's a really vibrant day of culture and performance and delicious food, and really absolutely established as part of our school calendar. We have student-led societies. We have the African Caribbean Society. We have Islamic Society, all student-led, staff-sponsored, but student-led. The student voice, not only has what you'd expect in terms of school council and food committee, very important committees in school, but it also has equity and respect reps, so that we're constantly talking about about that feedback in terms of student voice. We also use external agencies such as Flair, who help us to really quantify and reflect on the community attitudes, for example, to race. So we're trying to bring as many stakeholders as we can in, and to get as much feedback as we can. Here are our initiatives. This is what we're doing. Let's feedback. Let's review. What does the student voice say, and how can we continually respond to this? Because we want there to be room for everyone. Now, we're not perfect, and any school that tells you that it's perfect and this is probably not looking carefully enough. But it's very definitely a journey that we are very much part of in terms of that inclusivity.
And at Jags, you pride yourself on the benefits of holistic education, both in and out of the classroom. Could you tell us more about this holistic education, and the opportunities that the pupils have to prepare them for life beyond academics and school? I think increasingly we're all becoming very aware that we can't just send our children to university and that's the answer to everything, that they've got to have life skills, they've got to be able to cope in what is a very fast-paced, very fast-changing world.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And in my own professional experience, I was a head of sixth form twice, and so therefore I've had lots of experience of preparing girls for higher education. And I would say that we tend in the UK to funnel into quite a narrow higher education system, which is very much grades related. If you get these grades at A level, these university courses will be accessible to you. They will then move on from their higher education into professional careers, and employers to a certain extent are more likely to say, I sort of take your qualifications for granted, but who are you and what do you bring? And I think schools have such a responsibility around that sort of that holistic education that is, as you say, thinking about soft skills and all the things that you learn from a very busy and very vibrant curriculum. And it would be easy sometimes for observers to look at us as a very academically selective school and say, your exam results are the be all and end all. Yeah, of course they're important to us, but it is absolutely not the case that this is how we measure the success of our school, because not everything in life needs a qualification. I have played a huge amount of sport through most of my life, and a lot of the personal skills and qualities that I have come from a lifelong commitment to sport. And my academic qualifications are a completely separate strand that, yes, have opened doors in life, but largely haven't defined who I am. Learning for learning's sake is a really important life skill, and the ability and the drive to be a lifelong learner is huge. So we have done a big curriculum review recently. We've actually reduced the number of fixed GCSEs that we do down in school to enable us to bring more enrichment into the curriculum. These are non-examined courses. They are learning for learning's sake. It's called the Curriculum Plus program. And whether that's sustainability, whether it's storytelling, whether it's PPE, there are chances there in everybody's timetable to just learn about things that are interesting and may well take them down avenues and pathways that last them a lifetime. You've got the co-curricular activities. I mean, we'd be here all day if I start to list all the clubs that JAGS runs. But, you can go and do forensic science. You can go and do robotics. You can join the Do Nothing Club if that's what you want to do at lunchtime. You can go cheerleading. But go and try something new and be busy. And that's alongside everything that you'd expect in terms of sport and music and drama. Or you may be one of that cohort of girls who just wants to go and curl up with a book in the library at lunchtime. Brilliant. Off you go. Go and curl up with a book if that's really what's going to, bring that added dimension to your day. Or you might be part of our sustainability group who is composting our food waste from lunchtime in our composter on site. So, there's just that huge range of opportunities. So there's that aspect of being busy. The student voice here is very vibrant. I think that the understanding to learn about respectful discourse in terms of student voice while you're here is such an important skill for them later in life. We've talked about a few of the committees that we have already. Food committee, very important. School council, all of those things. Learn to give your feedback respectfully. Learn to receive feedback. But to make sure your voice is being heard. And I'd also add into that that sort of melting pot of complete education around the leadership opportunities. We've just been interviewing this week in year 12 for our head girls for next year. And it's such a joy and such a privilege to do that. But that sense of giving back as a leader, whether you're in a very visible leadership role as one of the head girl team, whether actually you're going to be, one of the leaders behind the scenes, because we can all have leadership in whatever we do and whatever opportunities we choose to take. And I would sort of build into that great big sort of jigsaw that we have of complete education, that lots of what goes on here is just about fun and laughter, and building that into every day is, we don't have to be super serious about everything. In fact, let's not be super serious about everything that we do. And all of that is before we even start talking about higher education and our fantastic programs for Oxbridge and our medics, and about that individuality of choice. And I think one of the great responsibilities that we have is to make sure the girls meet and encounter a real range of whether it's fantastic alumna doing unusual careers, but to have access to have insight into what might be out there, and as you can imagine, what an incredible group of alumna we have to call upon to come in and talk to the girls about what might be there, but knowing that this is a very individual choice for the girls. We'll have, for example, 20 of our year 13 who are heading off to Oxford and Cambridge at the end of the year. We've got girls who will choose degree apprenticeships because that's the right choice for them. And we love that sort of burgeoning sense of their own decision making. So I could probably talk for a long time about, putting the bits of the jigsaw together to make your own picture. But it's in terms of this time in history as providing a platform for these girls to be the leaders and the trailblazers of tomorrow is just something we genuinely embrace.
The GSA conference this year, you said that the introduction of VAT on school fees could have a seismic effect on girls' life chances. Now that VAT has been introduced, how do you feel that pupils and schools have been affected, particularly in relation to girls' education? And how can schools and groups such as GSA work to counter this and continue to improve girls' life chances?
Thank you, Chloe. Yeah, such an important question. And our concern has been that the VAT policy has the potential to disproportionately affect young women at a time, as I said throughout this podcast, when we should be doing everything in our power to support girls and women, their talents and their ambitions to achieve a more equitable world. And to be clear, what we're not saying that the policy puts girls' schools at risk. You will know that many of the girls' schools in the UK are complete powerhouses of education, but it is the possible impact on the education of girls, because I believe passionately that parents should have the choice of how they educate their daughters and should be free to choose to educate them in an all-girls environment. Now, there's around about 400 girls' schools in the UK, made up of both independent and state schools. And if this policy limits or removes access to those schools for any young woman, then that is a huge step backwards for equality and for the right to choose the education that best fits your daughter. And I think, to come back to a common theme from what we've talked about today, it was independent schools, it was the founders of the Girls' School Association who worked as that bridge 150 years ago to afford an education to girls that matched that of their brothers. And so, we have historically had such an important role to play. We continue to have such an important role to play. And so therefore, it is vital that we protect the best educational opportunities available to young women. And we believe that those are through girls-only schools.
Thank you, Alex. I couldn't agree more. And I think it's very important that all of the work that's going on takes place. And final question for today. Though I do hope that we get to speak again because there's lots more that I could ask. Could you tell us a little bit about your hopes and plans for the future of JAGS, and also in your position as president of GSA for girls' education?
Let me start with the GSA and girls' school education. So, I mean, we were saying earlier, girls' schools have such an important space to fill. And if I haven't convinced you of this, come and visit. And if you've never set foot in a girls' school and never considered it, it's the first thing I would say. Just come and visit and see what extraordinary education is going on that you have the choice of for your daughter. There are currently, I believe, 26 countries where women serve as head of state. And that means at that sort of current rate, we may be sort of heading towards gender equity in time for the GSA's 300th anniversary. So we got a long way to go in this. And I was looking back at the British Social Attitudes Survey, and that has ideas on how gender roles change. And they have a statement in this survey that says, a man's job is to earn money and a woman's job is to look after the home. And in the mid-1980s, about 48% of the respondents agreed with that. Fast forward to 2023, and 9% agreed with that. Now, that's progress, but there are still 9% who agreed. We're very keen, you're very clear in our message that progress is not parity. And for as long as we need to work towards that parity, there's such an important part that girls' schools play to help to mend that broken rung, to really ensure that girls have these opportunities to be empowered in school, to go on and just, well, we hope that glass ceiling will cease to exist, but if it doesn't, to give them the tools to smash through it. You look at the achievements of female leaders. There are brilliant role models out there. 150 years ago, Miss Buss and Miss Beale, they faced this challenge with absolute fervour, and we still have that role to play in terms of educating girls and expecting parity for them. And as I said earlier, nobody can argue with that. Nobody can argue with how important that is. And in terms of JAGS and the future, it's such an exciting time to be here at the moment. As I said, come and visit. And if you are not au fait with the world of girls' schools and you have a daughter, come and see us. And the first thing you will hear is laughter when you come into our school, and just be blown away by that passion for life and learning. These schools are full of laughter and full of busy individuals who just love life and learning. So the welcome is there. Come and visit us.
Alex, thank you so much. It's been such an honour to speak to you and to hear about JAGS. And obviously we did speak to Donna Stevens, but to hear from yourself as president also about the plans for the GSA. So thank you again for giving up your time.
Oh, Chloe, absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.